Where We Live on Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Lucy Nalpathanchel. What's it take for an independent bookstore to open and stay in business? Today we talk to indie bookshop owners about how they started and how they keep serving customers, despite Amazon controlling more than a half of the market for print books and at least 3/4 of publishers' ebook sales. Data show indie bookstores give more to the community and host more local events than those corporate chains. Now, where do you buy your books? What's your favorite indie bookstore in Connecticut? You can join us, 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. You can share a comment on our Facebook page or find us on Twitter @WhereWeLive. Coming up, we talk to People Get Ready Books in New Haven, and we hear from Roxanne Cody, who owns R.J. Julia Booksellers in Madison and Middletown. She's also the CEO and founder of a subscription service, Just the Right Book. That's coming up later. First, joining us on Zoom is Kamani Harrison, owner of The Key Bookstore, an Afro-futuristic bookstore in Hartford. Kamani, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, guys.
I understand you're a UConn grad and you graduated with a degree in environmental engineering. So tell us when you decided to open a bookstore.
It was towards the final years of me at UConn. I started to learn about my history, and the books were just so life-changing that I knew I wanted to incorporate that into my life. And being a vehicle of getting these books to people around me.
So when you decided that this is what you wanted to do, how did your family and friends react, Kamani?
Honestly, I'm more of a shower than a talker. I'm about what I say. It was some people kind of like in the business industry that thought I that wasn't a smart idea. But little did they know, like, bookstores are back on the rise, and I saw that. So here we are.
So your shop was established in 2018, and I mentioned it's an Afro-futuristic bookstore. So can you explain, Kamani?
Afro-futuristic. So I started Key Bookstore in a way of engaging more so online than brick and mortar. I didn't even have a brick and mortar back then when I started. I started out doing pop-up shops all over the place. I popped up in New Haven, in Waterbury, in Boston, Baltimore, New York, everywhere. And I saw that, unfortunately, around that time, a lot of bookstores weren't very engaged online, like Instagram. I don't think TikTok existed back then. But I felt like that's where the people are. And how do we connect them to this wonderful print content, as well as audiobooks and whatnot. But it was really about getting the books to the people back then.
You say getting the books to the people. You also accept crypto and NFTs, Kamani.
Heck yeah. So we create NFTs. Don't exchange them for books quite yet. But yes, we do accept crypto for books.
So tell me about your customer base for those who are using crypto. I mean, is that a significant part of the people that you're serving or a small percentage?
Interestingly enough, it's kind of up there. I don't know exactly what percentage, but the fact that people feel like they can exchange crypto for something that they see of value, which is our books, is really fire. And I'm so proud to be able to offer that. But we're growing in the crypto space for sure.
You're hearing Kamani Harrison again here on Where We Live, owner of The Key Bookstore, as we talk to indie bookshop owners about what it takes to start and keep their businesses going. You can join us. We know there are many indie bookstores in our state. At The number is 888-720-9677 if you want to share one of your favorite places in your community. So, Kamani, you told us that you started online first back in 2018, and then you opened a brick and mortar bookshop in Hartford in 2020. And we all know 2020, the year of this pandemic that still is plaguing us. But tell me about that decision and how that was received by the community.
It was more so out of need. I think anybody on this call knows the logistics situation of the industry as a whole. And I wanted to take control of the logistics experience for my customers. And also be able to really integrate more branded content. So even if they do have to wait for their books, they're getting, special bookmarks or promotional coupons or anything to just really stamp Key Bookstore into their brains and into their hearts.
Mm-hmm. And that's smart because that gives a even deeper connection with your customer, and then instead of just shipping off a book that they're interested in.
Exactly. And we got even more stuff coming exclusively if you buy your books through Key Bookstore, and being able to have an interactive experience with our books. So that's coming soon. And it has to do with NFTs and all that.
Mm. As I mentioned, you started online, and I guess a lot of entrepreneurs are opening online first. We heard from Shira Tarantino, who launched Pink Wave Books and Cafe just this January. She told Where We Live she's looking for a brick and mortar space offering intersectional feminist books, but also gifts and coffee and a really unique experience for anyone who enters. She's also one of many bookstore owners to have no or minimum inventory holding costs by selling through bookshop.org, which is the Amazon for indies. So, Kamani, you also sell on Bookshop. How's that been?
I don't sell on Bookshop, actually.
Okay.
My whole experience is totally independent. Built our website. Our website has over 30 million titles on it. We do use Libro for audiobooks, and forgot the other one. I forgot what the other one is for ebooks, but that's also connected to other independent bookstores.
Mm. And so has it been profitable for you, Kamani? What are the challenges?
Profitability comes in waves throughout the year. Having a specialty certainly helps. Black history is our history, and there's a time for it all throughout the year. We just had Martin Luther King Jr. Day in January, and then now this is literally Black History Month, so we tend to see a nice spike right about now. But you asked about profitability, and then you asked
how it's going. What have been the challenges for you?
The challenges. So, yeah, just it being a pandemic and logistics, and people are learning to be more patient with waiting for their products to come in the mail. That's been quite the nightmare. And then technology as well. It is not easy to build a totally independent bookstore website. Again, 30 million titles. Anybody that knows websites, having that many products on a website would be difficult to do. And so finding the talent to be able to do that and execute this big dream of an interactive bookstore has been tough.
Because there's so much out there, what is it that you're offering that's unique? Who would you say is your target, Kamani?
I would say those that want to see the industry move forward and also sustain itself. I feel like I'm integrating this technology in order to more efficiently reach more people and be able to broadcast titles that you may have never heard of, but might be the key to literally exactly what you're looking for, and to be open to that and to be patient with growth. So I say those that are truly interested in the the innovation of the industry as a whole.
Some of my listeners may want to hear you offer up some recommendations, but you're guarded about that, Kamani. And tell us why, because you want people to come to you and to your shop to hear how you will curate for them. Is that right?
Absolutely. We also do this thing called book bundles. Like we have a mini crypto book bundle that has some titles on learning about blockchain technology and what is an NFT and all that kind of stuff. But the titles are precious to me and sacred in a way because they changed my life, and they can change yours too. And as we just saw, another book get banned. Am I wrong?
Yep.
Just saw another book get banned, and that's not what I'm here for. So this is why and then a lot of people love to take recommendations and then go back to Amazon. That's not what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. So show up to the independent bookstores and spend your money if you love books.
And the way that your customers have changed in the last few years, Kamani, can you tell us about that evolution?
Yeah, I never in a million years. It's so interesting. You know, they tell you how to do a business plan and describe your ideal customer or whatnot. And who would think the profile would completely change? So when I got started, I was popping up at a lot of Black created spaces. Black Wall Street in New Haven, Connecticut, a lot of Black, especially merchant markets back then. And now, as soon as the George Floyd case happened, a lot of people started looking for anti-racist, specifically literature. So not necessarily our focus like Black history or Afrocentric materials, but literally how not to be racist or how to influence against racist infrastructure. And so with having those titles and curating titles like that for customers seeking that, we gained a whole new clientele that is quite diverse. Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear that you've expanded your reach. And we can tell just by hearing from you, Kamani, that this is more than just a business to you. It's personal, and you have a mission. As you mentioned, you know, the business changed you, and you want to help people access books and expand their horizons as well.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like knowledge truly can connect us in deeper ways. And I love that.
Well, I really appreciated hearing from you, Kamani. Congratulations for your success. Again, as an indie bookstore owner, Kamani Harrison, owner of the Key Bookstore in Hartford. James called in from Hamden and just wanted to share bookstores are community centers. And that sounds just right. Kamani, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
We're talking about indie booksellers. Several have opened in our state in 2020, like Title IX, a bookstore in New London, Athena Books in Greenwich, and Wordsmith Bookshop opening this May in Simsbury. Owner Megan O'Connor told Where We Live, I posted my dream of opening a bookstore in a couple of Simsbury Facebook groups. I got over 700 responses in 24 hours. Everyone was overwhelmingly supportive and excited. My husband and I have some savings. We borrowed against our home to purchase the building. We're also going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign in the next few weeks. Good luck to you, Megan. Connecticut's home to 29 indie bookstores. That's according to the American Booksellers Association membership database. More after a short break. This is Where We Live. This is Where We Live on Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Lucy Nalpathanchel. Today we're talking to independent bookstore owners about their shops and how they're engaging with customers and the community. Producer Sujatra Srinivasan asked the American Booksellers Association, also known as ABA, to lists the top 5 trends for indie bookstores in 2022. And the ABA shared that trends to follow include an increase in the number of BIPOC-owned stores, an increase in the number of stores owned by Black women, continued experimentation with store formats. So like we heard from Kamani Harrison, new models like pop-up stores, mobile stores, and fluidity between these formats, and stores moving from brick and mortar to online, then to pop-up, or the other way around. Joining us now to talk about the model that works for them, on Zoom with us, Lauren Anderson, co-founder of People Get Ready in New Haven. Lauren, welcome to our show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So how did you decide, okay, this is what I wanted to do? And tell us about when you launched your physical store.
Yeah, sure. So in some ways, having what I call it like a book space or shepherding one has been a lifetime dream, sort of like a cross between a community reading room and an independent bookstore. And, we got started officially in 2019. And like some other places, began with pop-ups that were thematic, actually. Our first one we did offsite at New Haven's Pride block party. And it was really wonderful with a sort of a thematic set of books partnered with Glisten and featuring the Rainbow Library for K-12 students. And our next one was around Indigenous Peoples Day and really featuring and uplifting the work of Indigenous authors and also resources, especially for educators and families who want to kind of read in ways that support young folks to deconstruct some of the mythologies about American history. And, we weren't necessarily intending yet to be open, but there was such an overwhelming response that the space we were popping up in, we decided to have Sunday open hours. And we started with Sundays because it's a day when local library branches in our city are closed. We have a really fantastic library in New Haven system, but, there aren't necessarily places on those days for people to just come and hang out and be with each other and be around books. And our plan was to, expand to more regular retail kind of hours in April of 2020. So
and we know how that goes, right?
Yeah, that didn't really go as planned. And we had to make some pivots on account of that. And we've kind of been shifting in space since then, and recently had a bit of a facilities issue. So we've been in transition and using things like our website and other options, curbside pickup, local delivery, to help get books to community members, primarily in New Haven, but also far beyond the city's
We heard
boundaries.
on Instagram, we heard from someone who wrote that People Get Ready books is our favorite. It was so awesome. They remember the virtual read-alongs at the beginning of the pandemic, and have always loved your local events and, of course, your book selection. So that must make you feel good.
It does. Yeah, it feels really good. We actually did, I did 90 consecutive read alouds starting the first day that school was canceled in the spring of 2020. And it became sort of like a lovely online meeting space for families who were like, just looking for a humble, regular morning routine. And I think that's a lot of what community book spaces ideally do, is just as much as possible, stay nimble and respond to local need as it arises. And I think, people have responded really positively to that.
When you talk about just responding to the community and ways to be more accessible, that also included bike delivery?
It did, yes. We got a book bike with some messenger bags on it and road bikes around the city, delivering books during the pandemic, and still do, although I have to say weather like what we have right now means some of those deliveries are not actually by bike. But, I think that some of what got mentioned already is just this sort of countercultural effort to slow things down and to, a lot of what happens really quickly in terms of fast capitalism comes at great human expense. And, I think that I've really learned through this process that people are willing to sacrifice a day or two in terms of the time between ordering a book and receiving it, if it means that they feel like they're contributing to the local economy, if they feel like they're giving to a business that's giving back to community, and if they feel like what they're doing is friendly to the earth and to people's health and well-being. And in that sense, I think a lot of folks who ordered books delivered by bike really felt like, they were part of sort of like slow food, slow books, slower books, I guess, effort that just had a lot of positive benefits.
And some of your collaborations at People Get Ready with local community groups really show your business model, you and your co-founder, helping New Haven teachers, stocking a 7th grade library, having bilingual books for resettled refugees, being involved in Elm City Lit Fest. You're hearing again Lauren Anderson, co-founder of People Get Ready in New Haven, as we talk to indie booksellers about what it's been like over the last several years. John's calling in from Torrington. John, what did you want to share?
I'm listening to the show. How are you?
John, this is you're on Where We Live. Do you want to share your comment with us? Oh, looks like...
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is John from Howard's Bookstore in Torrington.
Yep, you're on the air. What did you want to share?
I just opened up a bookstore, Howard's Bookstore in downtown Torrington, primarily used books, but we're open to the public 7 days a week.
And what has it been like for you? How's the community responding to your shop, John?
Well, Torrington is like many downtown Connecticut cities that have their own economic struggles. But the interesting thing is a combination of things. We're on the southernmost point of academia, actually. And so it's a very highly educated population and a population that loves books. And then in my view, because of COVID, there's been sort of a deepening of the American soul and also time on our hands. So people have gone back to reading. And there's just a certain group of people that like to have a real book in their hands. And that's my customer.
And that's me too, John. I'm going to have to check out your shop. Thank you for calling in from Torrington. Here on Where We Live again is Lauren Anderson, co-founder of People Get Ready in New Haven. Did you want to respond to what John shared with us?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. It's funny. I also am on the board of the New Haven Free Public Library. I love books. And one of the questions people would ask is like, what's the future of the book? As if books are going to go away because of screens. And I do think that in general, people still love to hold a book in their hands. There's no real replacement for that. We get a lot of content through other mechanisms, but I think the appreciation for a book and for gathering around a book is as strong now in some ways as it's ever been. And I think a lot of the social and political events of the last few years have really underscored for people the long overdue need for hard conversations across differences and the ways that books can really become vehicles for connection. Kamani talked a little bit about that already, just this idea that they're both mind expanding, but they're also potentially at least community building. If you situate them in spaces where people can come together and kind of read something in common or share things that they've read with one another to enrich conversations that really have to happen and that are incredibly difficult and, again, long overdue.
I mentioned bookshop.org to our other guest, Kamani. She doesn't use that, but you do. So tell me about when you direct customers there and how you continue to personalize their experience, Lauren.
That's a really good question. So Bookshop is a B Corp that sort of supports independent bookstores. It's an online fulfillment partner. And so when you have a bookshop storefront as a store, you can direct customers to it, or they can find you through Bookshop. And if they order from that site, then you as a bookstore receive a portion of the proceeds of that sale, but not having to really do any of the labor involved in that. And so, it's a it's a nice supplemental stream of income for a bookstore. It certainly doesn't replace, right, the kinds of things that we're talking about that are primary to our mission about community, about serving community, and about holding space for people to gather. In terms of making things personalized, I think, any bookstore has to think about its messaging, the kinds of things that it features. So as just one example, we talked about the read alouds that we did during the pandemic, and all of those are available in a sort of scroll for people to look through on Bookshop. So, some of the specific focus of the store and the things that it wants to hold up and uplift are reflected there. And I will also say just that, when a bookstore like ours faces a challenge, as we had with a facilities issue and some need to relocate, it's actually quite supportive to have a fulfillment partner that can keep you kind of going in one way while you recoup. So it's been, in general, a really nice and supportive additional stream of revenue.
We're almost out of time, Lauren. I know that People Get Ready also makes a point to showcase local Connecticut authors. You've also hosted them. Can you name just a couple for us before we head to break?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that. So I'll mention two, just because we have events coming up with them. Winsome Bingham has a beautiful new book out called Soul Food Sunday. Winsome's from the Ledyard area in Connecticut. It's a gorgeously illustrated book. And it's going to be featured at a wonderful event happening middle of the month, February 12th, Sankofa Learning Center, which is a local organization, Afrocentric Montessorian school being developed by a friend of the store, Amelia Allen Sherwood, is hosting a Black History Month event. And Winsome's book will be featured there. There are also other groups in Connecticut, like the Middletown Racial Justice Coalition, that are going to be reading it together with some folks later this month. And we're so excited to support a book like that and a local author like Winsome. And then also a new book coming out, or just came out actually on Tuesday, Each of Us a Universe, by Jean Fruolo and Ndengo Gladys Muelo. They co-wrote a book. And some of the proceeds of the sales of that book are going to be in support of Iris. Gladys herself is a resettled refugee. Jean is someone who's worked with Iris long-term. And, we really are excited to support that book because of all the things it represents. It's a story, a middle grades novel about a friendship between two young women, but it's also a co-authored text that speaks to issues that folks in our community are really facing.
And thank you. Thank you, Lauren Anderson, for those recommendations. Again, Lauren is co-founder of People Get Ready New Haven. Such a pleasure to hear from you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much.
You're listening to Where We Live on Connecticut Public Radio, where we talk about how indie booksellers stay open. There are also some fundraisers underway currently to reopen New Haven's never-ending books and to keep Bennett's Books in Deep River open. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk with Roxanne Cody, who's been in the book business for 32 years. We find out how she continues to adapt to customer needs, including her subscription service, Just the Right Book. Before we get to that, it's Connecticut Public Radio's short winter membership drive. Joining me now is my colleague, Diane Orson. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Lucy, what a fascinating conversation this morning with these independent booksellers. Great topic. I mean, I just hadn't really considered these ideas of shifting between brick and mortar and online and bike delivery of books. This is the kind of stories and conversation that you get on Where We Live each and every day. And I'm here with Lucy for just a few minutes because we are in the middle of a short 5-day membership campaign, and we'd like to take a few moments to invite you to support Where We Live. You can make your contribution online at ctpublic.org or call us at 1-800-584-2788 and support all the great information and conversation you hear from Lucy and her team each and every day on Where We Live?
I have a great team, a senior
Lucy?
producer. Yes, I have a great team. Senior producer Sujata Srinivasan produced today's show on indie booksellers. There's also senior producer Tess Terrible and producer Katie Pellico. If you listen to Where We Live each day, you know we hit a lot of topics, some based on what's happening in the news. Others are pitches from you, our community, about topics happening where you live that you want us to also talk about or to highlight. Tomorrow we'll be talking to the Ukrainian American community because of what's happening now between Ukraine and Russia. We provide this kind of analysis. We offer the time for listeners also to call in and to join in on the conversation. If you appreciate these kinds of conversations and what you learn each day about your state, Connecticut, you can join us with a pledge. Diane, can you give them that number?
Absolutely. The number is 1-800-584-2788, or you can make your contribution online at ctpublic.org. That's ctpublic.org. We've got all kinds of thank you gifts for your pledge of support for Where We Live and all the programming on Connecticut Public Radio. If you could make a pledge at the $6 a month level and you're a fan of Where We Live each day, why not add a Where We Live ceramic mug to your collection? It's really cute. It's a 16-ounce mug. It shows your support for Lucy and the team and all the great conversations you hear and that you participate in when you call to Where We Live. And right now we're hoping you'll call this number, 1-800-584-2788, to support Where We Live, to support Connecticut Public Radio, all the programs you find here. And please understand that it's call by call, listener by listener, that we build this station, that we keep it going. And if you want to hear more conversations like the one you're listening to today on independent booksellers, we hope you will understand that there's sort of a trust system going on here. We send the great radio out to you, and we trust that you'll understand that we count on your support to keep it all here for you. Don't go away. We're going to be returning to more Where We Live in just a moment, a conversation with Roxanne Cody, which I'm really looking forward to hearing. But we hope in this few minutes that you will jump on board, join us as a new member or a renewing member at ctpublic.org, or give us a call right now at 1-800-584-2788. We have about a minute. Lucy.
You know, often we talk about how public radio has become a constant companion to so many throughout the years. I remember listening to Morning Edition when I was just out of college, and some of those voices I still hear giving us the news and information each day, Diane. But I like to think about the type of relationships that we have made with our community, and the fact that, you know, we hear from Connecticut residents on programs like Where We Live, people that are experts in their field, but also who are just have interesting stories to tell. And Connecticut Public has done a great job in expanding coverage of news and information in our state, as well as also launching several new shows and podcasts. And that's our commitment to you as your public radio station. But we need community support to keep these programs coming to you. As Diane mentioned, the number is 1-800-584-2788. I have it in front of me now, Diane. And again, as we mentioned, if you want to get the Valentine's Day roses, today is the last day to pledge either $13 a month for Friday, February 11th delivery, or $14 a month for Saturday, February 12th delivery. Again, that number to call in to support Where We Live and Connecticut Public at 1-800-584-2788. And thanks so much. This is Where We Live on Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Lucy Nalpathanchel. Today we're talking to independent bookstore owners in our state. Joining us now on Zoom is Roxanne Cody, founder of R.J. Julia Booksellers and CEO and founder of Just the Right Book. Roxanne, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much, Lucy, for having me on.
Producer Sujata Srinivasan had listed that Barrett Bookstore in Darien and Breakwater Books in Guilford, also Elliott's Books in Northford and Hickory Stick Bookshop in Washington Depot are all 50 years old or turning 50 this year. Your shop, R.J. Julia, is about 32 years old. So talk about your longevity and how you've been able to adapt. There's been a lot of bumps along the way, right? When we think about how the book
big
market.
Bumps.
Yeah,
big bumps. I would say it takes a combination of things to have lasted this long. One is agility, this capacity to pivot. The joke I sometimes make when we opened was when Barnes and Noble started their, 500 store expansion. And then shortly after, it was followed by Amazon opening. So I keep describing it as an 8-inch pie that just has more forks. But the thing that has made it work are two critical things. One is our community. We have 2 stores, one at Wesleyan in Middletown and one in Madison. And I consider our job to put the right book in the right hand and to provide an experience when they come into the store that, has that ability to get lost and, hang out and discover a book. And so that partnership with the community has been key. And the second element is our staff. I often say to our staff, where do you get to have a job where you have the possibility of changing somebody's life? When we get customers in where it's a child who's just learning to read or a person who just got divorced or lost someone or is starting life over, and they're looking for a book to help them in that way. And our booksellers are incredible at making that happen. So I think those are the 3 things. You've got to be very adaptive, and you have to be really serving your community in order for that to be a partnership. And then you need to take care of your staff.
I understand that margins for indie bookstores are notoriously thin. So when we think about rent and payroll costs, also the price of books and even credit card fees. So what's the financial formula for success, Roxanne?
Well, I think the average bookstore in the country loses 2%. So, I was in finance in New York. This was, this is not the most lucrative, but I do think it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And some publishers have worked hard to help independents, but I think it means the challenge is that we can't pay people the way very profitable other private sector companies pay. So we're attractive to people who are attracted to the work, and we do the best we can. I try really hard at RJ Julia's to make sure that we're paying people the most that we can pay.
You mentioned your employees. I believe you have 50 across Madison and Middletown. Can you share what your payroll looks like and the challenge? Any challenges making it during the pandemic?
So our payroll is over $1 million a year between the 2 stores, which when the pandemic started and we had to shut down in March of 20, I'm a person relatively calm. I was in a full-blown panic about how I was going to keep 50 people employed. And that was pretty terrifying to think about. So there were 3 things that helped us get through it. One is we realized that we had an opportunity to bring 3 things together. We understood schools shut down. A number of kids that were on school lunch programs would not have access to books. We realized that our customers who could were trying to figure out what they could do to help others in the community. And we started a fundraiser along with Senator Chris Murphy to raise money so we could hand out free books as families were picking up lunches. We ended up raising close to $200,000 and distributing over 10,000 books in Middletown, Bridgeport, and New Haven. And that helped us pay our payroll, and it got free books out. So it was our staff willing to do the work. So that got us through. And then, the federal programs did what they were supposed to do. We applied for what's referred to as the PPP program. We qualified because, we lost over half our sales in about 2 seconds. So that helped take care of our payroll. And then when we could open in June, we encouraged our customers to do business with us in any way they wanted. We created a pickup window that's adorable. We beefed up our website. We limited the number of people in the store, and they really helped us out. And so we also used, there's a work-share program that Connecticut had. We used that to some degree. And so Higgly Piggly, our staff, and we didn't furlough anybody that wanted to work. And we kept all our staff employed.
That's great to hear. You're hearing Roxanne Cody here on Where We Live, founder of R.J. Julia Booksellers and CEO and founder of Just the Right Book. Let's talk about this subscription service that you founded, Roxanne, how it has fluctuated even before the pandemic and what you saw, what you're seeing currently.
Yeah, so what I realized is about 10 years ago, when I was trying to think about other models to make the store financially viable, I realized what we know how to do, as I said earlier, is to put the right book in the right hand. And so what Just the Right Book does is, rather than Book of the Month, which sends the same book to everybody, what we do is you go to our website, Just the Right Book, and you subscribe, and then we send you a preference form. And then we actually have Brit's, the head of our customer service. She works with our booksellers in Madison, who have collectively hundreds of years of experience. And we send you a book that's based on your own interests. So we've had thousands and thousands of customers. A lot of times people send it as a gift, they send it to their mom or dad that loves to read. They send it to their, it's the cutest gift if you're a grandparent or an aunt to send to your newborn niece, nephew, or grandchild. And they get a book a month. So it's got, the old school. It comes in the mail, all gift wrapped. It's got an element of surprise. And we have just a gazillion letters from customers that say, oh my God, I would have never picked that book out. It was perfect. I loved it. So it's a very satisfying part of our business. I mean, the whole business is satisfying. Just being a bookseller is an incredibly satisfying way to have a career.
I understand currently 20% of your sales come from Just the Right Book and your website combo versus just 1% pre-pandemic, Roxanne?
That's right. Right. So our Liz Bartek, who's our marketing manager, managed to very quickly fortify the R.J. Julia website, and customers realized that they could do business with us online, and they would go to our website before, maybe to look up, we pre-pandemic did 300 events a year. So they would look for that. But customers now understand that they can buy books from us for whatever mood they're in. They can text us, they can email us overnight. We'll have it ready in the morning. They can buy online. They can subscribe to Just the Right Book. And I think what we've learned is people want to, get a book in the way they want to get it that minute. 1 minute, they might want to come in the store and hang out and talk to our booksellers. And the next minute, maybe they're listening to Connecticut Public Radio and they hear about a book and they want to buy it, and they can text us, hopefully not while they're driving. But so, that's what we need to do. We need to be responsive to how they want to work with us.
Nice. We just have a couple of minutes left, Roxanne. And to your last point, I know you read a lot of books. So what's one that you recommend that listeners can pick up at their independent bookshop?
So there's one that I want to mention. It's a new big book. It's called In Paradise. And it's by Hanya Yanagara. She had written Little Life, and it's a 700-page book, but it's worth reading. And then the other book I want to mention is a book by Claire Keegan, and it's called The Small Things, and it's almost a novella, but it's about a very important issue set in Ireland in the 80s, and it's about how we as citizens need to be brave and pay attention to our community. And I think in today's world, that's an important message for all of us.
Thank you for those recommendations. Roxanne Cody, founder of R.J. Julia Booksellers, CEO and founder of Just the Right Book. She's been at it a long time, more than 30 years. A pleasure to have you back on the show. And of course, the connections that you have made in our community and your staff are much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Thanks for the great work you do.
Thanks. This is Where We Live. I'm Lucy Nalpathanchil. Sujata Srinivasan produced today's show. Our technical director is Kat Pastor. Before you head on to the other plans you have today, we want to remind you that this week is Connecticut Public Radio's short winter membership campaign. We can't bring you these kinds of conversations without your support. Joining me now is my colleague, Diane Orson. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Lucy, what a wonderful show today. What a privilege to be able to step in at this moment. We're just taking a few moments from the programming to ask you to support programs like Where We Live, conversations like this beautiful one you just heard about independent booksellers in our region. This kind of programming, which originates here at Connecticut Public Radio, is only available because and individual listeners step forward during membership campaigns like this one. We're in the midst of a short one right now, and they make their contributions. In fact, we've heard from people all over the region this morning during Where We Live, stepping forward and contributing to keep this on the air for you. So if you're a listener but not a member of the station, we ask you to make a contribution right now. You can go online at ctpublic.org, or you can call us at 1-800-584-2788 and make your pledge. One last quick thing I want to mention before I throw it back to Lucy, which is that with Valentine's Day coming right up, one of our thank you gifts, which today is the last day you can take advantage of this particular one, is a bouquet of Valentine's Day roses. So if you've been thinking about making a pledge of support and you'd like to send Valentine's Day roses to someone special in your life, make your call and pledge at either the $13 a month or $14 a month pledge. That will determine which day your roses are delivered. We've got all red roses, or we've got a bouquet with mixed colors. Either is available. You can see them when you go to ctpublic.org. So that's just one way we hope we will entice you to make your pledge right now. Lucy.
They're really lovely bouquets, at least what I'm looking at in front of me, Diane. 24 either colorful seasonal roses or, as you mentioned, the 24 classic red roses. Diane is a flower lover like myself.
We're both flower lovers.
And what I like about offering this to our listeners to support Connecticut Public and also to send flowers to someone special, you can even send them to yourself. Treat yourself, as my producer, Tess Terrible, reminded me the other day, again, for a gift of $13 or $14 a month. But the important thing is that you call in or click that donate button at ctpublic.org, again, to support the programs you hear each and every day, the news, the information, stories from around our state. That's why we put so much value in giving that to you. And we would love to hear from you now to just what you can afford to give to Connecticut Public Radio. That number again, 1-800-584-2788 or ctpublic.org. Thanks.
We've gotten